In spring, people who live in the central United States keep an eye to the skies, a time when severe storms are common. If conditions are just right, one of these powerful storms could spawn a tornado. On May 3rd in Oklahoma City, the conditions are perfect. It's early afternoon, and Amy Crago is home with her 10-month-old baby, Aleah, and her parents, Robert and Catherine. On the news, they hear that a severe thunderstorm is heading their way, but Amy isn't concerned.
It was a really nice day. It's been blue sky. There wasn't any clouds.
Clear skies over Oklahoma can be deceiving, especially at this time of the year. At news station KWTV, Chief Meteorologist Gary England knows the odds are high that tornadoes will develop.
We had the proper wind shear, and we had the jet stream coming across. It was obvious we were going to have tornadoes. We weren't sure how many and how strong.
Flowing within the jet stream are jet streaks, smaller bands of faster winds. Besides their ability to trigger thunderstorms, their powerful winds can help create rotation in the storms, the perfect condition for tornadoes. By 4 that afternoon, everyone at KWTV is on alert. Cameramen, news people, and executives all have their assigned duties. Tracker crews and helicopters are dispatched. At around 5 p.m., a severe weather warning is issued for regions just south of the Cragos neighborhood. 35 miles southwest, skies darken and lightning pierces the clouds. The storm cloud grows to huge proportions and begins to slowly rotate. Clouds at the rear of the storm drop, forming a wall cloud. A small funnel descends from it and touches down. KWTV's storm tracker is out in the field reporting back to Gary at the station.
Val, is this a rain shaft or is this a funnel cloud?
It looks like to me, Gary, this thing is rapidly getting organized. The rotation has gotten much stronger. The lowering has gotten a lot lower. All kinds of debris through the air.
The twister churns through farmlands, cutting a swath northeast toward the town of Chickasha, 40 miles southwest of Oklahoma City.
It's still a huge tornado. Chickasha better look out.
Back at KWTV, the mood is electric.
Who's it coming from? We've got some tornadoes on the ground. Major rotation. Just to the west of Chickasha is when it really became serious. The mesocyclone, the rotation inside the thunderstorm began to increase. The wall cloud once again was huge, and then that stovepipe wedge-shaped monster came down just to the west of Chickasha. As it came down as a huge wedge, obviously it was a very serious tornado. It was bigger than anything I'd ever seen.
There's no doubt in his mind that this is a killer.
You folks in Chickasha, take your immediate tornado precautions.
30 miles east of Chickasha in Bridge Creek, Amy Crago watches her father scan the skies. He sees ominous dark clouds heading toward them. As Chickasha residents take refuge, Gary hears reports of other tornado sightings in the county. A nightmare is unfolding. Other supercell storms are spawning multiple tornadoes. Oklahoma is in the grips of a tornado outbreak.
This is the way these supercells do. They cycle. They'll produce a tornado, it'll dissipate, wall cloud then reorganizes, then you have another tornado.
Right. Yes, correct.
Just as the tornado closes in on Chickasha, a second funnel descends from the same core and touches down.
Oh my gosh! You got 2 tornadoes on the ground.
This phenomenon is known as multiple vortices, a tornado within a tornado. It is a clear sign that the system is intensifying. The monster vortex spins out debris up to a mile away, forcing the news helicopter to give the storm a wide berth. But on the ground, Scott Pittman, a native Oklahoman, is driving friends to Norman, a town southwest of Amy's neighborhood. Over the radio, he hears that the same tornado that hit Chickasha is now heading for Norman. Scott decides to drive north so they'll be safely out of its path.
I took the exit to the turnpike, and my plan was to pull over and let the storm pass.
Scott stops at an overpass along Interstate 44 to get a better look.
We didn't even realize that it was a tornado. With the cloud being 1.5 miles wide, we'd never seen anything like it.
About 10 miles south of the overpass, the storm roars up Interstate 44. What looks like an enormous dark cloud is actually the mile-wide killer tornado. It's now an F5 and it's heading straight for Bridge Creek.
For the first time in my career, 27 years, I said you have to be below ground level to survive. And I've been talking to everybody for 27 years, say eventually an F5 is going to come through the metro. It's there. It's a mile wide. I'm looking at the thing, and I'm thinking, it's happening. I can't believe it's happening.
Back in Bridge Creek, the Cragos scrambled to find shelter. A few miles north on Interstate 44, Jim Patton and Jeremy Hubbard are on assignment for Coco TV to cover the tornado damage in Chickasha. They drive by the overpass where Scott and his friends are waiting out the storm. The skies darken, and Jim begins to wonder whether they should keep going. The dark rain cloud is heading right for him. He stops the van by the side of the road, and Jeremy gets out to shoot some video of the storm.
I saw this big black wall cloud. It was probably 2.5 miles long. I had no idea what that was.
It's massive rotation. It's probably
At around 6:30, an hour after the genesis of the massive twister, KWTV Storm Tracker witnesses a terrible sight. The tornado barrels into Bridge Creek.
We're starting to see areas of residential sections in its path now.
The twister bears down on the Cragos neighborhood. Now, the only thing between them and the monster is a closet door. Next on Storm Stories, the killer F5 tornado roars into Bridge Creek and rips. It is an unforgettable sight. A mile-wide F5 tornado churns into the Oklahoma City suburb of Bridge Creek, tearing up the community with winds possibly reaching over 300 miles an hour. TV meteorologist Gary England watches in horror.
We could see the power line flashes. It was pretty obvious something terrible was happening to people.
As the monster twister engulfs the home of Amy Crago, she huddles in a closet with her family. Her father, Robert, struggles to keep the closet door closed.
The door was just popping open and shut, and I could see the daylight outside from the wind trying to suck the door.
Suddenly, the closet door is ripped from his hands. The Cragos are violently yanked up into the swirling vortex.
It was just like a bright light. You couldn't see, you couldn't hear. I was just certain that I was going to die. I was scared to death, and there wasn't anything I could do.
Amy clutches Aleah as they are flung over 100 feet through the air.
I had Aleah in my arms at that point, and I remember I hit the ground, I still had her, and then after that, I don't remember when I let go. I put my hands over my head, and I asked God just to go ahead and take me.
Amy staggers to her feet. Baby Aleah is gone.
I realized I had to find my baby, but I think I was still in shock too, because I looked around, I couldn't find anybody, and I didn't know what to do. My house was gone, the trees were gone, the cars were gone. There was a tree that landed right next to me.
Amy's father, Robert, stumbles in the debris, only to discover that his wife has not survived.
Tears just started rolling down her cheek, and she just died. I just stood there in disbelief and really didn't know what to do at that point.
In deep shock, Robert searches for his daughter and baby Aleah. He can't see Amy wandering amidst the trees.
I assumed everyone was dead. There was no one present.
A few miles away at the highway overpass on Interstate 44, the terror is just beginning for Scott Pittman and his friends. While they wait out the storm, they see the tornado cross the highway, heading straight for them.
Just before the tornado hit, debris and wind was beginning to blow and come in underneath the bridge. People were beginning to take cover, and we knew that this was the only place that we could go.
The group picks an extremely dangerous shelter, the overpass.
The absolute worst moment was the seconds prior to the storm hitting us, knowing that this was so big and so powerful and so much out of our control. Divine intervention was the only way to survive.
As the vortex engulfs them, it's chaos.
I looked down the slant of the overpass and could see debris blowing in. Mother Nature had taken over at that point.
Out of the swirling mass of debris, a road sign flies through the air like a missile striking Scott's leg.
I looked down only to find that it had been severely lacerated.
With this tornado, you need to be below ground level.
Reports of injuries and horrific damage start to swamp 911 lines. Emergency crews are dispatched all over the county. Deputy Robert Jolly of the Grady County Sheriff's Department patrols the damage path and gets a call to head over to Bridge Creek, where there's word of casualties. Driving over hail-strewn roads, his dashboard camera captures another tornado in the distance. As he drives into the residential area, he sees a car leaving. A neighbor is taking a young woman suffering from a head injury to a nearby hospital.
So I went around and assessed her injuries. She appeared to be in shock. She couldn't find her family. She couldn't find her child.
That young woman is Amy Crego. Just as Deputy Jolly is checking Amy, a few miles away, Jim Patton and Jeremy Hubbard head back to the TV station. They stop at the overpass where only moments ago, Scott Pittman and others took shelter. This time, the scene is completely different. What used to be cars and vans are now unrecognizable twisted pieces of metal. In some cases, only the engines are left. Scott Pittman is seriously injured.
Get him covered up. Keep pressure on that wound.
Another man has a broken leg. Jim tries to help him.
If it's on, if it works, I think we got an ambulance coming, partner. We have to come out Oklahoma City, though. So.
An emergency medical team arrives.
You remember what just happened?
Yeah, we were hit by a tornado.
Okay.
Paramedics wrap a protective splint around the man's broken leg. About an hour after the ordeal, the injured are treated at a local hospital. The raging tornado continues its deadly path northeast, hitting the city of Moore. The killer tornado veers north and dissipates. Back at Bridge Creek, Amy Crego rests in the hospital. There is still no sign of her baby daughter, Aleah.
I thought everybody had died. I mean, it never occurred to me that people could live through something like that.
Deputy Jolly scours Amy's neighborhood for possible survivors.
I just walked towards the tree line. All of a sudden, at the corner of my eye, I'd seen something move. So I stopped and looked, and I looked down there, and I seen something. I wasn't real sure what it was, and I reached under the debris and felt a warm leg, and then at that time I knew that I had a baby.
He gently carries the infant over to his cruiser. As he wipes the mud from the baby's eyes and ears, she starts to cry.
You okay?
That was a wonderful feeling. It was wonderful. When the baby cried, I felt like then she was going to be okay.
At around midnight, Amy is reunited with Aleah and Robert.
That was the best moment and the worst moment because at the time I found my daughter, I learned that my mother had died.
67 tornadoes were spawned that day and night in Oklahoma and Kansas. 46 people were killed and over 800 injured. Total property damage is estimated to be over $1 billion. Scott Pittman has a new outlook on life after his horrifying ordeal.
And I feel very fortunate, and the way that it's changed me is that every day is special, and every day we always should remember not to take for granted the things that we've been given.
The Cregos struggle to come to terms with the tragedy. Baby Aleah is the source of their strength.
If you have loved ones, spend all the time with them you can. God only gave them to us for a certain length of time, and He is most definitely going to take them away one day.
Thousands of lives were changed that day in Oklahoma. Those in harm's way who survived were left with a powerful lesson. Against the absolute power of nature, life is fragile.